Good day, students. Welcome to study session 3 on our lecture series HR 304, Permanent Tree Crop Production. Today we'll be discussing one of the cash crops, which is cocoa. One of the world's most magical and incredible trees is the cocoa tree. The botanical name is Trigoma cacao, which roughly translates as food of the gods, or more literally, God food. In order for cocoa tree to be produced, cocoa beans are extracted from the mucilage and are used as the planting medium. The cocoa beans also can later be used for production of chocolate. All the conditions must absolutely be perfect. When you have studied this session and followed me in this video, you should be able to briefly describe cocoa, its flower, its pods, and the origin of cocoa in this part of the world. Also, you should be able to understand the requirement for cocoa production, and lastly, describe the basic principles in the nursery operation. Botany of cocoa. This involves scientific classification of cocoa and it concerns cocoa flower, cocoa pod. The cocoa flower is one of the most beautiful flowers in the world. It takes a keen eye, however, to appreciate them because they are very small, only about 1/2 inch across. It is interesting to note that cocoa flower have no smell. Pollination of cocoa flower occurs by the action of midgets and other jungle insects. The cocoa pods. If the flower is fertilized and conditions are perfect, the cocoa flower will start to grow into cocoa pods. Even at this stage, the pods survival is not guaranteed because the vast majority of the pods start to develop and will grow until they are a few inches long. But if the conditions are not right, the pods will die. The baby cocoa pod is called chilio because it is like a baby chili. Cocoa varieties now. Cocoa varieties are of basically 3 types. We have the criollos, we have the forastero, and we have the trinitario. The trinitario is called trinitario because it is a cross between the criollo and the forastero. The trinitario originates from Trinidad. That is why it is given the name trinitario. The criollos dominated the market in the Middle East at the early 18th century, but today only a few are available. This is because the pods are bumpy and waxy skin pointed, and the beans, on the other hand, vary from light purple to white color. They are plump and full. In general, the beans from criollo cocoa are considered to have a finer flavor than other varieties of cocoa. The forastero is a group containing cultivated semi-wild and wild population in Brazil, West Africa. You have this type of cocoa there. The climatic requirement for cocoa production. The natural habitat of cocoa tree is the lower story of evergreen forest, and the climatic factors that are very important to them are the temperature and the rainfall, which are important to encouraging optimum cocoa growth. Temperature. Cocoa plants respond well to relatively high temperatures with a maximum annual average of 30 to 32 degrees Celsius and a minimum average of 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. The rainfall required for cocoa varies in the yield of cocoa trees from year to year, and the cocoa, when affected by rainfall, reduces the yield. Trees are very sensitive to soil water deficiency. Rainfall should be plentiful and well distributed throughout the year. Relative humidity also affects it, and it requires a hot and humid temperature essential for optimal development of cocoa trees. The light and shade also is very important. The cocoa tree will make optimum use of light available and has been traditionally grown under shade. Its natural environment is Amazonian forest, which provides natural shade trees. Shading is indispensable in cocoa trees' early years. Soil requirements. Cocoa is grown on a wide varieties of soil, but what are required is the physical properties and the environmental influence. Physical properties, the chemical properties, and the environmental influence. Physical properties of soil that cocoa needs is a soil depth of about 1.5 meters to allow the development of the growth of the root system. Chemical properties that is needed is cocoa can grow in soil with a pH in the range of 5 to 7.5. It can also cope with both acid and alkaline soil, but excessive acidity of a pH of 4 and below or alkalinity between a pH of 8 and above must be avoided. Cocoa is tolerant of acid soil provided the nutrient content is high enough. The environmental influences now: the climate, the soil, the water supply, human action and other environmental factors can also affect productivity. The cost of producing a large number of cocoa is very high. A large part of the cost of establishment and maintenance of cocoa is labor. The next major cost is such as fertilizers and pesticides. Both of these costs will vary with the size of the farm and the type of farming carried out. Financial success in setting up a cocoa farm depend on quick returns from the initial investment and increasing the yield to cut across all units costs. Propagation of cocoa trees now. Cocoa is raised from the seed. The seed will germinate and produce good plants when taken from pods not more than 15 days under ripe. It requires vegetative propagation, and this can also be used to create clones. Vegetative propagations can be by cutting, by budding, or by macro cutting. Cuttings. These tree cutting are taken between 2 and 5 leaves and 1 or more buds. The leaves are cut in half and the cutting placed in pots under polythene until the roots begin to grow. Budding. A bud is cut from a tree and placed under a flamp or bark of another tree. The budding patch is then bound with raffia, wax tape, or a clear plastic to prevent moisture loss. Then the bud is growing. The old tree above is cut. That is, when the bud starts to grow and it starts to improve, the old tree above is cut so that all the nutrients from the soil passes through the bud to make it move faster. Macotting. A stack of the bark is removed from a branch and the tree area covered in sawdust and polythene sheet. The yard will produce the root and the branch can then be chopped off and planted again. I believe you have learnt a little about cocoa, how it is produced, how it is raised from seedling to the cash tree that it becomes, to the tree crop that it becomes, and also you've learnt about the soil requirements and the climatic conditions. Let us meet in the next slide when we discuss on that cash crop. Thank you for listening.